You've been walking through your days with a weight that doesn't even belong to you. People throw their words, their moods, their drama, and somehow you're the one losing sleep. You sit there reliving the argument, rewriting what you should have said, replaying moments you didn't deserve. And for what they're out there unbothered, meanwhile you're burning inside. Let me tell you something, you weren't built to live like that. Somewhere along the way you were taught that reacting meant power. That if someone disrespected you, you had to raise your voice to prove you mattered. That if someone hurt you, you had to show them you could hurt back. But that's not power, that's exhaustion. And you're starting to feel it now. Every time you react, you hand a piece of yourself to someone who didn't earn it. That's not strength, that's survival. But there comes a moment when you stop surviving and start reclaiming. When you stop being a puppet to disrespect, to negativity, to the past, and you say, not today, not anymore. That's the moment everything changes. Not because the world gets easier, but because you get sharper, quieter, stronger. And the power you've been giving away, you take it back, one breath, one pause, one decision at a time. Because here's the truth, you don't need to prove anything to people who don't even see you. You don't need to argue to feel heard. You don't need to explain yourself to be valid. Your piece isn't up for debate anymore. And starting now, you don't move out of reaction, you move with intention, calm, clear, focused. So I want you to lock in. Every word you hear from here on out is a brick. And with every brick, you're building something unshakable, not a mask, not a performance, a foundation for a version of you that no one, not pain, not people, not pressure can tear down again. This is the turning point. This is where the reaction stops and the mystery begins. It all begins in your head before the world gets to you. Before the insults land, before the storm shows up at your door, it starts with what you allow in your mind. You see, nobody can control you unless they first convince you to hand them the keys. And too many times you've done just that, not because you're weak, but because you were never told how strong you really are. They didn't teach you that silence is power, that peace is a choice, that every thought you entertain is a seed and what you water grows. People think emotions just happen to them, like a wave that drags them under. But what you haven't been told loud enough is that you have a choice. You get to choose your response. And when you understand that, you realize you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to absorb every mood someone throws at you. Their chaos doesn't have to become your chaos. Their bitterness doesn't have to flavor your day. But that only becomes true when you take back control internally first. And maybe you felt it lately, the rise in your chest when someone disrespects you, the heat behind your eyes when you're misunderstood, that ache when you give your best and it still isn't enough. You've been reacting, and every time you do it, steals a piece of your peace. But the power, the real power, it's in the pause. It's in the breath between what they do and what you choose to do next. That's where kings are made. That's where warriors are formed, not in shouting, but in silence. Not in explosions, but in stillness. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean you're passive. This doesn't mean you shrink. No, it means you rise above. You walk like someone who knows who they are. You respond like someone who doesn't owe anyone an explanation for their boundaries. You choose peace, not because you're afraid of the fight, but because you've already won the war inside yourself. That's what control looks like. You're not here to be everybody's mirror. You're not here to reflect back their insecurities, their anger, their chaos. You're here to lead yourself, to govern your own emotions, to walk into a room and remain unmoved because your spirit is no longer up for rent. You're not giving away your energy just because someone else didn't know how to manage theirs. You've got vision now, you've got direction, and you've got too much purpose to be pulled off course by every loud voice in the background. So the next time someone tries to test you, remember this moment. Remember that you're not the storm they are, and storms pass. But you, You stay grounded, rooted, focused. You rise because your power isn't in how loud you speak, it's in how little you allow to shake you. And once you learn that, once you truly master that, nothing and no one will ever move you the same again. You've been taught that power is loud. That strength looks like shouting, proving, explaining. That silence means weakness. But now you know better. Now you've lived enough to learn the real power. It doesn't need a mic. It doesn't fight to be heard. It commands by its presence alone, because silence isn't the absence of strength, it's the proof of it. It's standing there eye to eye with someone who's trying to provoke you and choosing not to flinch. Choosing not to give them your peace, your reaction, your energy. You don't need to prove you're strong when you are strong. When you've tamed the fire inside you, you no longer need to burn everything around you to feel seen. And here's what they'll never tell you. The person who speaks less often holds more power because they're not playing defense. They're thinking, they're watching, they're 3 steps ahead. When you go silent, you become unpredictable. And in a world that thrives on knowing how to trigger you, unpredictability is your armor. It confuses them. It disarms them. Because the moment they realize they can't move you, they lose all control over you. And maybe you've already felt it. That shift, that moment when you stop replying to every message, when you stop chasing closure, when you no longer felt the need to fix every misunderstanding, that wasn't you giving up. That was you evolving. That was you realizing that your peace matters more than their approval. That silence, when chosen, is not emptiness, it's discipline. It's power that doesn't perform. It's confidence that doesn't compete. You walk differently when you're not trying to be understood anymore. You rest deeper when you're no longer carrying other people's emotions on your back. You gain clarity in silence, because that's where the noise of the world dies and the voice of God gets louder. That's where your soul reminds you, you were never created to beg for dignity. You were born with it. So from now on, let silence be your first language. Let stillness be your response. Not because you're afraid of confrontation, but because you're done wasting breath on things beneath your calling. Let others wonder what you're thinking. Let them assume. Let them spin their stories. Because the ones who move loud are often the most lost. But you're anchored, and anchored doesn't flinch. You've graduated from proving your worth. Now you walk in it, quietly, boldly, unshakably, because the one who controls their words controls the room, and the one who controls their spirit controls their destiny. You remember the conversation? You walked in smiling, just trying to get through your day. But then they said it, that comment, sharp, passive-aggressive, dipped in just enough venom to sting. Maybe it was a coworker, a family member, or someone who once claimed to love you, and just like that, your whole mood started to shift. The energy you carried began to tremble under the weight of their bitterness. Not because you believed their words, but because you absorbed them. But here's the shift you didn't have to, and deep down you knew it. That moment became your lesson. You stood in the aftermath of their projection and you started asking different questions. Why did that hit me so hard? Why am I still carrying something that didn't even start with me? That's when you started to wake up. You started to understand that not every arrow shot in your direction belongs in your chest. Some things were never about you in the first place. They were about the wounds. They never healed the battles. They never faced the storms. They never processed. And you were just standing close enough to catch the debris. That's when you stopped absorbing and started observing. You stopped internalizing and started discerning. You stopped making other people's dysfunction your burden to carry, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. Because there's a difference between compassion and self-sacrifice. And you're done letting other people bleed out on your peace. You began to see patterns more clearly. the one who criticizes you the most, always at war with themselves, the one who mocks your growth, terrified of facing their own stagnation, the one who tries to make you feel small, always drowning in their own inadequacy. And when you stop taking it personally, you took your power back. You realize people only project what they haven't yet processed. And you don't have to pick it up just because it was thrown at you. This didn't make you harder, it made you freer. You still feel, still care, still carry empathy, but you stopped carrying guilt that wasn't yours. You stopped apologizing for how others mishandled their own emotions. You stopped shrinking to keep the peace in places where peace had never even been planted. And now, when someone comes at you sideways, you don't retaliate, you read it. When they lash out, you don't flinch, you see through it. When they try to infect your day with their mood, you smile with a knowing heart. You're not made of stone, but you've learned how to filter. You've trained yourself to catch what's yours and return the rest to the sender. That's real strength. Not reacting to keep a facade, but understanding to protect your soul. It's not about bottling up your emotions, it's about mastering them. And in that mastery, you rise. Because while they're still battling ghosts you've already faced, you're out here building peace like it's your birthright. Because it is, you no longer absorb energy that doesn't serve your purpose. You no longer carry trauma that isn't yours to heal. You understand, and then you release. And that is what makes you untouchable. It happened slowly. One day you woke up and realized you were tired, but not the kind of tired a nap could fix. It was so deep, you'd been showing up for everyone, answering every call, putting out every fire. You were bending over backwards for people who wouldn't even lean forward for you. And all the while you kept telling yourself, I'm just being a good person. But what you didn't see was that your peace was bleeding out through the cracks of your overcommitment. You didn't notice at first. You thought it was just a phase, just the weight of the week. But then the anxiety lingered. The mood swings became frequent. And even in quiet rooms, your mind was noisy. That's when you had to stop and ask, why am I sacrificing myself for people who would never do the same? That's when the truth hit you. Peace is not something you find, it's something you protect. And no one was going to guard it for you. That was your turning point. That was when you started closing the door. Not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You stopped picking up every phone call. You stopped saying yes to every invitation. You stopped explaining your decisions to people who only wanted access, not understanding. And it felt selfish at first, until it didn't. Until you realized that self-preservation is not selfishness. It's stewardship. It's knowing that when your soul is fractured, you can't serve anyone, not even yourself. So you got intentional. You started drawing boundaries. And for the first time in a long time, you honored them. You didn't just speak peace, you chose it. You didn't just preach about self-care, you lived it. You started treating your inner world like sacred ground. And not everyone was allowed to walk there. Some people didn't like the change. They called you distant, said you'd changed. But they never asked how much it cost you to keep pretending you were okay. And now you understand the value of silence. You understand the strength in no longer explaining your boundaries. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to your energy, and not every situation deserves your reaction. You don't let just anyone into your space anymore, because that space is holy now. It's healed ground, and it's only for those who walk gently. When someone tries to bring chaos to your doorstep, you don't open the door. When drama knocks, you don't answer. When the past whispers your name, you don't even turn around. You've learned to let peace be your compass. And if something costs you your peace, it's too expensive. Protecting your peace means more than quiet mornings and turning off your phone. It means having the courage to walk away from what doesn't feel right. It means saying no without guilt and saying yes without resentment. It means loving yourself enough to choose healing over pleasing presence, over performance, and clarity over chaos. Because peace isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of wholeness, and you now are whole. There was a time when you were all over the place. 1,000 plans, 100 voices, 10 different paths pulling you in every direction, and none of them were yours. You said yes to things you didn't want. You followed opportunities that didn't feel aligned. You chased approval like it was the purpose, and it left you feeling scattered, stretched thin, exhausted by effort without clarity. You looked successful on paper, but inside you were lost, directionless. You remember the moment it shifted? You were sitting in your car, engine off hands, gripping the steering wheel like it held the answer. Another opportunity had fallen through. Another person had disappointed you. You felt the familiar frustration bubbling up, ready to explode into anger, blame, regret. But this time, something inside you paused, not out of defeat, but out of awakening. You whispered to yourself, "What if I just stayed with one thing? What if I stopped chasing and started building?" That was the day you chose purpose. Since then, your clarity has become your currency. You stopped watering dead plants. You stopped pitching your soul to crowds that didn't understand your language. You picked a path and you started walking, not because it was guaranteed, not because it was popular, but because it burned in your chest every morning, the unshakable knowing that this was what you were born for. This is what you were built to carry. And no, the road hasn't been easy. There were days when doubt whispered, "You're behind." Days when comparison tried to make you trade in your mission for someone else's momentum. But you didn't fold. You stayed the course because you understood something most people never do. Your purpose isn't a feeling. It's not high. It's not a moment of inspiration. It's a calling, and callings demand consistency, not convenience. People around you may not get it. They'll say you've changed. They'll ask why you don't show up like you used to, why you're always working, why you're so distant. But they don't see what you're building in the dark. They don't understand what it takes to stay focused when distractions scream for your attention. They don't feel the weight of a vision that keeps you up at night whispering, "Keep going." But you do. You feel it. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, every time you stay in your lane while others drift into drama, every time you pour into your craft, into your purpose, into your calling, while the world chases dopamine and distractions, you are not them. You don't need noise. You don't need a round of applause. You don't need permission. Because the most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest. It's the one with focus. The one who knows exactly what they're here for and refuses to waste time explaining it. And now you've become that person. The focused one, the grounded one, the one who isn't moved by every wave, every comment, every trend. You wake up and you get to it not because it's glamorous, but because it's yours. You've built a rhythm around your mission. You've stopped asking for the world to understand it. You're too busy becoming it. Because when you stay focused on your purpose, everything else becomes background noise. You carried it longer than you needed to. The memory, the moment, the words you wish you'd never heard, the silence you wish had been filled. You told yourself it made you stronger, and maybe for a while it did. Maybe that pain kept you alert, helped you build walls, kept you from falling for the same traps. But eventually you realized those walls weren't protecting you. They were burying you, keeping you stuck in a loop, reliving a scene that had already ended. It's hard, isn't it, letting go of something that hurt you, not because you loved the pain, but because you got used to carrying it. It became part of your identity, like a scar. You kept reopening just to remind yourself you survived. But let me tell you something. You don't owe your past that much power. You don't have to keep bleeding to prove you once got cut. There's a moment you'll never forget. Maybe it was late at night, maybe it was a quiet morning, but it came. The moment you looked at yourself in the mirror and whispered, "This weight, it's not mine anymore." That's when the healing began. Not with revenge, not with someone else's apology, but with your decision Your choice to put down what was never yours to carry forever. And yes, letting go felt like losing at first, like surrender, like weakness. But the deeper you breathed into that space, the more you saw the truth. Letting go isn't giving up, it's getting free. It's choosing your peace over your pride. It's saying, I'm done watering what won't grow and meaning it. It's stepping away from the wreckage without needing to look back. You might still hear their voices sometimes. You might still feel the sting when you remember how it all went down. But now it passes through you. It doesn't stay, because you've learned how to release without bitterness, how to forgive without forgetting who you are, how to move forward without needing anyone to hold the door open for you. They didn't say sorry, that's fine. They didn't change. That's not your burden. You've outgrown the need for closure. You've stopped waiting for permission to rise. You've realized the greatest revenge isn't payback, it's peace. It's smiling in the mirror because you didn't let them break you. It's walking away without a war and still winning. And here's the truth that hits hardest. What hurt you shaped you, yes, but it doesn't define you. It taught you, it warned you, but it doesn't get to lead you anymore. You do. You choose what stays. You choose what heals. You choose what moves forward with you and what stays behind. Yesterday, letting go isn't forgetting, it's remembering differently. It's honoring the lesson, not the pain. It's rewriting the story, so the chapter doesn't end with a wound, it ends with wisdom. And now you move lighter, you move clearer, you move with the kind of grace that only comes from surviving what tried to ruin you. Because the moment you decided to stop clenching your fists around the past, you opened your hands for the future, you let go. And that's when you rose to become a greater person. You could have clapped back. You could have let the fire fly. You could have dragged them, exposed the lies, raised your voice and matched their chaos beat for beat, and no one would have blamed you. You had every right, but you didn't. And that right there, that's power, real power. The kind that doesn't scream to be seen, but stands so tall it can't be ignored. You see, anyone can react, anyone can explode when poked, but the bigger person, they choose peace while the world pulls at their pride. They walk away from the noise, not because they're afraid to fight, but because they know the fight isn't worth their energy. They understand that silence is not surrender, it's strategy. It's elevation. You've already outlived battles that were meant to bury you. So why return to the dirt just to prove a point? Why let someone else's immaturity pull you out of character? Every time you respond to petty drama, you hand over a piece of your peace. And baby, peace is expensive. It's sacred. You don't give that away to people who never paid the price to respect it. There will always be someone trying to rattle you, trying to test your temperature, hoping you'll snap so they can say, see, I knew you weren't healed. Don't give them the satisfaction. Let them poke and prod and push, and let them drown in their own noise. You rise. You stay still. You protect your crown, because here's the truth. They don't want resolution, they want a reaction. But when you refuse to play their game, when you stay unshaken, you expose what they're really after: control. And when you don't give it to them, you take all their power away without saying a word. That's the part that gets them. You didn't have to get loud. You didn't have to clap back. You just kept moving. And that silence screamed louder than anything you could have said. You've got to remember who you are now. You've outgrown the version of yourself who needed the last word. You've outgrown the spaces where your voice had to compete just to be heard. You're not building a life to prove something to them. You're building a life because you finally know what you're worth. And when you know your worth, you stop negotiating with anything that threatens it. So let them talk. Let them stir the drama. Let them throw their little stones. You've got mountains to climb. And no mountain ever bowed to the wind. No throne ever came down just because the crowd was loud. Being the bigger person doesn't mean you're soft. It means you're solid. It means you've built something so unshakable on the inside that the outside noise doesn't get in anymore. That's what it means to truly heal. To know you could break them with the truth, but instead you choose to build yourself with it. So when the moment comes, and it will, when someone disrespects you, underestimates you, or tries to drag you into their storm, just smile, walk on, stay silent, stay royal, stay grounded in your grace, because you're not the fire anymore. You're the light that stands above it. Be a greater person always. But you have to realize that greatness isn't something you stumble into. It's not gifted. It's training, sculpted, earned in silence long before it's ever celebrated in public. And it begins not with your hustle, not with your to-do list, but with your mind. Because if your mind isn't right, nothing else can be. You don't become strong by accident. You become strong because every day you wake up and decide not to be ruled by yesterday. You choose clarity over clutter. You choose discipline over emotion. And you do it not once, not when it's convenient, but daily, relentlessly. Your mind is the battlefield, and most people lose before the day even starts. They wake up and check their phone, letting the opinions of others shape their mood before they even shape their thoughts. But not you, not anymore. You wake up and command your thoughts before the world tries to. Start your day with intention. Before the noise comes in, speak to yourself like someone who's going somewhere. Remind yourself who you are. Speak vision. Speak the truth. Speak strength. I am not here to survive. I am here to rise. That's not fluff. That's a recalibration. That's training. Because here's the truth. Your mind listens to you every single day, and whatever you say the most it believes. So if you keep saying, I'm tired, your body will agree. If you keep saying, I can't, your progress will freeze. But if you say, I'm focused, I'm capable, I'm building, your habits will follow. But don't stop with affirmations, back it up with action. Start small. No phone for the first 30 minutes. Write your goals. Sit in silence. Read something that stretches your thinking. Move your body. Fuel yourself like a warrior, not like someone barely crawling through the day. Train your focus. That means saying no when distractions come dressed as urgency. That means choosing deep work over dopamine hits. That means staying locked in on the task when your feelings scream for comfort. Because feelings are fickle, but habits are loyal. And when it gets hard, that's when the training kicks in. That's when you choose to breathe instead of break. That's when you sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Because every rep, every choice, every moment you say, I'll stay here a little longer, you're building mental muscle. And that muscle, it's what separates those who wish from those who win. You train your body by lifting weights. You train your mind by lifting resistance, discomfort, discipline, delay. So the next time life presses on you, don't retreat, don't collapse. Remember, this is part of your training. You're not being tested, you're being conditioned. And don't just train your mind to work, train it to rest too. Recovery is strategy, stillness is power. Learn to step away without guilt. Learn to say, not now, and mean it. Because burnout isn't a badge, it's a breakdown. And your calling needs you strong, not scattered. Your greatness lives in your patterns. So ask yourself every day, what am I rehearsing right now? Fear or faith, delay or discipline, excuses or excellence? You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. So build systems that make strength inevitable. And when doubt creeps in, and it will, you fight it with truth. You remind yourself, I'm not here by accident. I didn't come this far to fold. My vision isn't fragile. My future is not up for negotiation. That's not ego. That's alignment. That's authority. So train daily. Speak life. Build grit. Feed your focus. Reject the noise. And when life gets loud, when emotions flare, when distractions bang at your door, you won't break. You'll remember who you've trained to be, because you're not just mastering your schedule, you're mastering yourself. Daily training. Your mind is non-negotiable, but no mindset can thrive in toxic environment. It doesn't matter how gifted you are, how big your dreams are, or how much potential is in your bones. If you stay planted in poison soil, you will wither, and some of the most toxic soil looks familiar, smells like history, talks like loyalty, but if it's not feeding your growth, it's starving your future. You don't owe history your future. Read that again. You don't owe your past relationships, your childhood friends, your old circles, your bloodline, a lifetime subscription to your energy. Honor what they gave you. Learn from what they took. But don't confuse proximity with purpose. Just because someone started the journey with you doesn't mean they're meant to finish it beside you. Because you're on a climb now, and not everyone can breathe where you're going. So look around. What's the energy in your room? Do your conversations lift you or leave you empty? Are you around people who remind you of your limits or people who speak to your vision? You've got to get intentional about this, because your environment is not neutral. It's shaping you every single day. If you don't choose what fills your space, chaos will choose for you. That includes your inputs, not just who you hang with, but what you consume. Your mind has a diet. And just like your body becomes what you eat, your emotions become what you feed your thoughts. Gossip, fear-driven headlines, toxic comparison scrolling, that's mental junk food. And when your soul's starving for peace, purpose, power, you wonder why you feel weak. Start feeding your mind meals that fuel your mission. Read books that wake your dreams back up. Watch things that teach you how to build, not break. Follow people who model strength, not noise. Because who are you watching? That's who you're becoming. You think it's innocent, you think it's just background noise, but your subconscious is always listening, always soaking, always storing. What are you handing it to? Let's make it personal. Have you ever been around someone and felt exhausted after, not because of what you did, but because of who they are? That's a soul drainer. And your peace is too expensive to hand over to a cheap company. So prune, gently but firmly. You don't have to burn bridges, just stop walking back over them. You don't need to make a dramatic announcement, just stop offering front row seats to people who only clap when you're bleeding. Distance is a boundary, and boundaries aren't walls, they're doors to freedom. Because here's the truth, it's not just about avoiding the bad, it's about building something better. A circle that sharpens you, a tribe that calls you higher, a space that believes in you even when you forget who you are. That's not luxury, that's a necessity. Your life is too sacred to live it, surrounded by doubt. Your calling is too precious to be clouded by noise. So clear the air, clean the room, make space, not just for quiet, but for greatness. You were never meant to carry everyone with you. You were meant to walk with those who carry vision like you do. So take inventory, make edits, adjust the volume, because your future is not built by chance. It's built by choice and the environment you choose. It either feeds your wings or clips them. Choose well. You're headed somewhere holy. You've taken your power back. No more handing it out to strangers. No more letting noise inside your mind. From now on, nobody gets to reach into your peace unless you let them. Words won't shake you. Negativity won't move you. You don't flinch. You don't react. You rise. You've trained yourself to pause instead of explode. To understand instead of absorb. You've learned not everything deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves your access. You are still. You are steady. You are unshakable. The chaos can scream, the world can push, but you walk through it untouched. And that silence, that calm, that's not weakness, it's power. You are no longer controlled. You are in control. forever